Welcome back to part 2 of how to become a better defensive player. In this video, we're going to be covering the tactics of being a defensive player. I want to address a couple of comments that came out in the technical part before we get started. Whenever I do any of these things in the videos, you'll see me kind of exaggerate or overdo a specific shot. Usually I'm doing that just to kind of be an example of what the shot's supposed to do. So for example, if I'm doing blocking or if I'm doing slicing or lobbing, obviously I didn't have to lob or slice or do that every time. It's more about teaching the technical aspects of it. Today, when we do the tactical part of it, I'm going to show you how those shots fit into certain situations. We're going to break it into 3. We're going to break it into court position, we're going to break it into shot selection, and we're also going to be looking at what your outcome is supposed to be based on the situation your opponent's putting you in, which is basically a combination of the two. So we're going to get straight into that. I have Tom here helping me today. So Tom's going to be really good at being an aggressive player, so we'll really get some good examples in. Let's get that started. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is court position. I have the camera set up right along the baseline here. If I was to be playing Tom in a neutral scenario, you'd find me holding the baseline, taking about a step in, maybe a step or two back, depending on what type of shot I'm in. When you get pushed into a defensive position, you have 2 jobs. 1, give yourself as much time as you can to be successful with the shot, so you might find yourself kind of sinking back into this area. The other thing is to not stay there. You want to reassess the baseline. You want to be pushed back and then move back up into this position here. That way, if the opportunity comes where you hit a good defensive shot and you can go neutral, then you're in a position to capitalize on it and not get pushed back again. I see a lot of people get pushed back, throw that defensive ball up, and then they stay back here and they wait to be attacked again and again. You give yourself time and then you try to take that time back as quickly as possible. You'll see examples of that with a bunch of pro players, but right now I'm just going to hit from here and then you'll see me basically get pushed around by Tom, and if I get pushed around, I'll back up and I'll go right back in. So I'm holding this ground. Nothing too fancy here. Back, and then get right back on top. So I don't have to get pushed back. Backing up. And then now I can hold my ground again. So I just stepped in because Tom's ball hit a let cord, but the purpose of being here is when random stuff like that happens, I get to quickly get into that position. There's no way I would have been able to hit a winner trying to get from here back up into that position. So on court position, the main thing you have to remember is you want to be back only when you need to go back. And secondly, I'm going to change the camera angle. I want you to see how you're supposed to adjust. You don't just back up. You want to take angles when you go back. Those balls came down the center. When you go for the angles, you want to back up and run this way. That way, if you have a chance, you can potentially put your weight back into the shot. But if you can't, you just hold that semi-open stance and you're able to push up. Let's change the angle so you can see that one. So quick example before we move on. If Tom was to give me that ball and push me back into that corner, if I go back slow, I end up with that semi-open stance and I have to kind of just hold my ground in that position. But if I go back fast, I can back up and then step into that ball and maybe not be as defensive. But either way, I always cut that angle back first and then decide if I have time to do the second part. So no time, hold the semi and just use the back leg to push up. If you get time, go semi first, decide that you have that time, and then shift your weight in the best you can. Sometimes you'll step in and be able to be aggressive. Other times you'll step in and just at least be able to be neutral. So let's move on to the next one. So on to the second part, we're going to talk shot selection. Shot selection, when I refer to it, is what you want your shot to accomplish and why you're picking it. Tom's going to be attacking down the middle, so he's not going to be running me around. Based on the type of shot that he uses, I have to pick the one that kind of counters what he's trying to do. So for example, if Tom hits a shot that he's trying to take a lot of time away from me, the shot that I choose should give me some of that time back. If Tom's hitting a shot that creates movement pressure, my goal needs to be to make it that my next shot decreases his accuracy. So I might, for example, add contact pressure and try to get him to take a ball a little bit higher. So So what we're going to do now is Tom's just going to rip it down the center. I'm going to stick to one like I did in the other video before, but I'll show you guys why. Go ahead, Tom. So I'm going to start with the slice, and by slicing, it forces him to have to lift that ball up. Perfect. So as you guys can see, that ball is below the height of the net, and he still was able to rip it, but it gave me exactly enough time because his trajectory had to go at least up a little bit. If I was to give Tom a slice that sits like this, trying to give myself time, that's a completely different shot in terms of what he would do. So that's not what I needed to do in that situation. Tom's really good at being aggressive. I need to get him to stop attacking. So the low slice below the height of the net brings the attack down at least enough to be manageable. So now we're going to go for the lob. Go ahead, Tom. So Tom attacks. My lob is to give me that time. My lob is to get that contact pressure where he has to then manufacture it himself. And again, Tom's a college player, so it's not going to work every time. So you don't want to rely on lobbing over and over again. But if Tom's in a position where I need to buy myself that time, that's the goal. Why would I go for the lob versus going for the slice? They both kind of buy time. It all depends on where he is. If Tom's the type of person that doesn't step into the court, lobbing is the way to go. If Tom's the type of person that does step into the court, the low slice is the way to go. Tom, hit that ball. So if Tom pushes me back and I just assume he's not going to step in, I could end up putting myself in a bad position. Good shot. So he pushes me back, and I'm like, throw the lob up. And he's already in there because he's done that a bunch of other times. But if I see that Tom's been stepping in the whole time, he goes for that shot, and I give him, ooh, nice ball. He goes for that shot, and I give him the low slice first. That becomes a lot more manageable because of the way Tom likes to play. Now, the slice is to neutralize the attack. Now, the chip, which I'm going to go into now, the chip is when somebody's good at that and they actually take away my time to take my racket all the way back. You'll also usually chip when you get put under movement pressure because you don't have the ability to really get your weight under the shot. So, Tom, can you just send the ball over here? Yep. So he sends it there. That's my goal. It accomplishes a similar thing to the slice, but I get to feed off the incoming pace in a bad position. Chipping is usually done when somebody's really good at putting you under time pressure because they stop you from being able to set the racket in time. But the goal of chipping and slicing, very similar. It's just how much action you can impart on the ball. Shot selection number 4 for being defensive is the heavy ball. The heavy ball, your goal is let your racket acceleration not go away, but let the bounce do the work. So I'm not trying to be aggressive with shot speed, I'm trying to be aggressive with shot location and the bounce. Go ahead, Tom. So he hits that ball, and I throw balls that bounce like that. He has to now work to make that shot. And they don't all have to be that high. Nice. So that last one was pretty low, but I take a lot of the risk out of my way of playing because I cleared the net by a lot, but I still brought that ball down. So a lot of spin, let the bounce do the work. Oh God, challenge. So again, a lot of spin, let the bounce do the work. Oh, come on. And again, that doesn't mean I have to let myself get pushed around, but I'm taking a lot of risk out of it because I'm not trying to blast back into it. When do you use the heavy ball? You use the heavy ball when somebody's shot is creating enough pressure to push you back, but your footing is still there. Because if I get pushed back, I can get my leg under me and still bring that ball up, forehand or backhand. The heavy ball becomes a little tougher as the court gets wider and you start running from side to side. Still doable, but you end up seeing a lot of behind the back and a lot of stick saves rather than a conventional heavy shot. But when that ball is getting fired right at you and you have enough time to manufacture a full swing, load, really roll. Because the other thing is, unless they're taking the ball out of the air or on the rise, that bounce is going to push them back a lot faster than your normal rally or flat shot. So now let's get into part 3. Okay, so for part 3, we're going to get into the direction piece. You see Tom standing in the middle. We're basically going to break direction into 3 ones, which is middle, cross, and line. I say go to the middle to narrow out the amount of angle that a person can create against you. So if they're running you from side to side, for example, hitting the ball to the middle at the right time would limit how far they can make you run in the opposite direction. That is also predicated on keeping the ball deep enough that that angle is still effective. If you're hitting the balls middle and short, they obviously have the option of going heavy and opening up the court. Hitting the ball cross is always a good play for multiple reasons. It gives you time because you're hitting it across the bigger part of the court. But when they're trying to move you around, creating movement pressure, if they go line and you go cross, you immediately equal out that movement pressure. So if they're going cross and you just stayed cross the whole time, you're not going to have more or less movement than the other person. Then when they go line, if you take it cross again, you then should equal out that movement pressure. And lastly, when you go down the line is only for defensive positions at a very specific time. I call it the high line change, which is just high enough that the person backs off a little bit. You don't want to go high line and make it super high because then they're more likely to step into it. So it's a very fine window. Slicing line also will work because you then force them to pick the ball up and usually they'll end up going cross. But we're going to start by me just hammering the center and see how Tom does with attacking me, moving me around, but only from the middle of the court. So Tom can put the ball anywhere he wants, and my job is just to keep him pretty much in the middle. Good. So you see, there was never a ball that I couldn't reach. He moved me around the same way anybody else would, but it was never a clean winner where I just couldn't quite get there. Hold on, just get this ball. Now if we were to switch that, and now every time he moves the ball I go cross, it equalizes the movement pressure. So now I won't go middle. Just put the ball over there. So now we're always, good try. Now we're always in the same situation and it equals out. Over there. Hitting the shot that gives me time. Now I'm over there. Again, by picking the right shot at the right time, you saw me, I use slices sometimes. Other times I picked it up. I'm giving myself the time I need when I need it, and other times I'm stopping him from attacking when I need that to happen. You're good. Yep, same spot. Cross. Over there. And need time, slice it up. Good ball. Stay over there. I missed that first. But again, you're not going to get it perfect. Don't forget, you are still technically on defense. So you don't need to expect to win all the points. Great job. You don't need to win all the points. Your job is to neutralize the pressure. And as I said in other parts, get back to the baseline, get back to neutral, and potentially go back on offense if that's the way you like to play. Last one is going to be the high line change. One of my favorites at the right time. Good. The high line change goes about that high, right there. It immediately neutralizes the point in most cases. High line change, not super aggressive. The reason why this shot works is because there's no setup to it. It comes from the same position as the cross court shot because I'm not looking to transfer a bunch of extra weight into it and be super aggressive. What it accomplishes though is briefly taking time away from that person and forcing them to slow it down a little bit because they don't look at it like I attack them. So they're more likely to just relax and get the next ball in play. But what it does is give me the time I need and potentially get me from here to here. Ready, Tom? I'm gonna use that one again. For a plan. High line change. Now I'm back on the baseline. Okay. There you go. So that's down the middle. Stay middle. I'm going to combine all of them now. Go cross here. Give myself some time. Slice. Ooh. Do it again. Heavy cross. Slice line. Still a high line change. That's a good roll. But that, even with the slice, still a high line change. He had to back up, give me the time to throw it in. That's gonna wrap that up. We're gonna add one little bonus thing right now. Okay, as an added bonus, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use all these and combine them with return to serve. So all the shots that we just practiced can be applied to when somebody's hitting big serves or difficult serves that stretch you out, and you can immediately handle the defensive position that way. A split, heavy ball, high line, slice cross. Oh, don't do that. Come on. You see, just going for those defensive shots right from the beginning. One more. This time I think I'll go with the block. Perfect choice. High cross. Slice line. Neutralized. There we go. See, I don't want to be on defense. I just have to do it when it's the right time. All right, guys, that's going to wrap everything up. Big thank you to Tom for helping me out with this video. When you guys go out and practice these things, practice them individually, figure out how they fit into the way you want to play, and then build them into your game one at a time. Know when to slice, know when to lob. Figure out which ones you favor more, figure out which ones come out of your body more naturally, and then use them. Do me a favor, send this video to anybody that needs to learn how to be a better defender. Combine the stuff that we did in the first video with the technique and this video with the tactics, and then put it all together. A drill video is going to be coming out pretty soon, but we will see you guys in the next one.